Welcome to Michigan Reimagined, a Spotlight podcast. And here's your host, Chris Buck.
All right, so the City of East Lansing has been undergoing quite a renaissance over the last 4 years with a series of new mixed-use development projects. Most have an emphasis on student living, and here to discuss a very different type of development proposed in the city is the Director of Development for River Caddis, John McGraw. Welcome to the show, John.
Hey, Chris. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. So let's dive right into River Caddis itself. So for those not familiar, who is River Caddis Development? What kind of projects do you all specialize in?
Well, we're based out of East Lansing, Michigan. We began in 2008, and it was started by my father and his partner, and I was brought on in 2012. And since then, we've really crossed sectors of real estate, from build-to-suit office to student housing to multifamily mixed use. And over the past couple of years, we've really ventured into some other interesting developments that involve more of public-private partnerships or master plan developments, where we're really getting in deep with communities and understanding what issues they're having and trying to reverse engineer solutions through that. So it's been a fun decade, we'll say.
Right on. Okay, so you've got a lot of portfolio, right? You've got a lot of positive projects in the rearview mirror, and talk a little bit about some of the things you've done in Michigan. Are there things around the state that you can share that and kind of point to that people might recognize?
Absolutely. So Michigan, actually, while I grew up here and live here, and same with the rest of my family, we've actually done less in Michigan than our other states. But Michigan, we've built a mixed-use development in East Lansing that would include a first-time farmers market, an additional about 40,000 square feet of retail, along with some student housing right off Trowbridge. And we've done a couple Rite Aids, a couple other mixed-use properties, and then in Midland, Michigan, we've built a mixed-use headquarter space or quasi headquarter space for Dow Chemical, right across from Dow Diamond and in the Great Lakes Saloons. It's about 220,000 square feet. Beautiful building, finished in, I want to say 2013 is when that was finished. And then we've developed in 7 different states from, again, cross sectors. So,
and how do you decide where you want to go?
That's an interesting question. I'd love, I guess I'll just give you a quick glimpse into it. I'd love to say it's super sophisticated.
Sure.
At the end of the day, it might be.
Right.
But really it deals with a lot of intuition. Whether it's just baseline research into what the economy is doing from growing communities, and then we just go and visit and we see how it feels. From there is where the intuition is. I mean, is this a place that we could live? What is it about this place that feels special? Can I walk through the streets? Can I walk a dog through here? Can I walk with my wife? Can we find a place to eat? Is there a place that is a sweet coffee shop that has a cool name or it has a cool feeling? And then from there, we go and meet the government, the people making decisions.
Right.
So if we have the feeling, the economy's growing, and the people within the government are open and willing to development, not against it, or you're starting to feel a little interesting about how they're going to be as a partner, because they always are. That's kind of the basis of our decision. It's not heavily metric based.
Right.
It becomes that way because we have to prove our projects, but
yeah, you must
not from
start out with like finding a pent up demand, right? Or an area that's kind of growing that you think you can supplement.
Correct.
So it starts with a little of that research, I would imagine.
We did a project in Boise where we actually went to visit Boise because of the blue turf on the football field.
Okay. Yep.
That was our first thing. We were like, we want to go check that out. And then while we were in Boise, we were like, this place is amazing. And then come to find out, it's one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. And we ended up building an 8-story mixed use public-private partnership multifamily community. So
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay. So trying to stay close to home, right? Looking for Michigan projects. I understand you travel quite a bit, as you just elaborated, being out of state, for some of these projects, because it's got to take an amazing amount of time to go shepherd these projects through and oversee construction and go through all the approval processes. So that's got to be pretty taxing on a man like yourself. So staying close to home in Michigan would be welcome.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a lot easier to get to, Okemos than it is to Boise.
Right.
The traveling isn't, it's fun. I guess it's a lot of perspective on how you're viewing life.
Right.
Is it something like I have to go do this because of this, or is it I get to do this and I get to meet these people that I otherwise never would have?
Right.
The city halls, the difference between the city hall of Lansing and Boise is nothing. There's very small differences between people.
Right.
And conditions, but they're all different. They're all unique. But the main difference is being able to do this, being able to travel, meet different people with different cultures, understand different forms of construction and soils and how to develop, and different communities that have different statutes and all these other things. So essentially it's this big learning playground. And so when you say, well, traveling's taxing, like, well, doing things is taxing. It can be.
Right.
Or we have the opportunity to grow and to learn. And I think it's more perspective than anything.
Sure. It can be energizing.
Yes. Oh, it's exciting.
It's a puzzle to put together.
Yeah.
Good for you. Okay. So now, as in the intro, I talked about how East Lansing's kind of going through a renaissance and, kind of modernizing. You're getting more of a skyline, and there's taller buildings, and a lot of it's based on residential, mostly students, but you've got some seniors and some market rate apartments and stuff. But East Lansing certainly looks a lot different than when I moved to this state in 2008. Quite a bit different. And, as you alluded to, you look at places that are in growth mode and are looking for things that are different. And so you've got a project that you have been working with the City of East Lansing on called the Citadel. So can you talk to us a little bit about what does Citadel stand for, and what is this building's purpose meant to be?
So in 2019, pre-pandemic, and this goes long before. I mean, this project has been not the Citadel, but this whole area has been in the works since early 2000, in multiple different iterations, multiple developers, good and bad press, right? So there's a lot of background, there's a lot of history, a lot of baggage, which is why this site's really hard to develop, because it comes with all that baggage. But in 2019, the City of East Lansing released an RFP trying to find partners to develop certain things and get ideas of what could be developed. And as I stated earlier, River Caddis has built student housing across the nation in multiple different states and top 5 conferences. And so we understand student housing pretty well, actually, from background experience. And when reviewing this RFP, we started to notice something that was very intriguing to us. It was like this, as you mentioned, a puzzle. But this is our hometown. And so we haven't pushed student housing. We haven't wanted to do it because, even in 2012, we thought it was saturated to a certain degree, which is kind of funny to see now.
Right.
And it likely is probably saturated from a student housing perspective if you take everything into account,
right,
of all the product. But if you look in certain areas, like downtown, they're still filling up. They have recent developments that are 100%,
right,
that
no
are just
question.
finishing.
Yep.
We've got the downtown ones that are 100%, and there's pent up demand and everything, and people like new things. So in 2019, they set out this RFP, and I'd been working for probably about a year in the background trying to figure out what I could do downtown East Lansing. So it was much further than just a simple development, or it wasn't even the RFP that I was interested in. The RFP just happened to come out while I'd been looking for a year. And I'd been working with the city, or not working with them, but trying to understand what they wanted more. And one of the legs of the stool in economic development is office is getting people down here. And in East Lansing, they have students, they have an 18-hour city, and not the good 18-hour, right? They don't,
Right.
they don't have the lunch crowd. And then people leave during the summer and they leave in Christmas. And that makes it hard, especially in the businesses downtown. There's a lot of national restaurants that have left because they can't make sales, or it doesn't make sense to pay the rents that are down there for whatever reason. But they've left. National restaurants that shouldn't have left.
Right.
They should still be there. They spent all the money getting there. They should still be there, but they're not. And so what our goal was to find a development that triggered or brought enough energy into the downtown to bring industry from different states or different cities. Hopefully different states, so we could really capitalize on a new crowd. And that
Right.
kind of grew and born the Citadel, which is Central Innovation Technology and Arts District of East Lansing. And it was called a district because even though we were talking about one building, one piece of property, I didn't feel like that idea could be contained within a structure. I thought that was going to be kind of the grenade in the bathtub.
Okay. So say that again.
Central, I said it right the first time. Now you're going to make me repeat it. And I'm going to say it wrong.
Innovation.
Central Innovation, Technology, and Arts District of East Lansing.
Right on. Okay.
So it's really
Innovation
to
and
focus
arts.
on
Yeah.
in innovation, but innovation can be anything. It can be it's inclusive innovation, where the idea is everyone of every condition and every age and every look has an idea, and
Right.
it's worthy, and it can be something. And we're trying to find a place that brings industry inside of one place that runs into each other and creates new innovation. So the idea there was to bring more people within a high-tech facility that was focused on people, wellness, and ideas.
Okay. So this is a new building, not a retrofit, right? So you've got
That's
a
correct.
place where you would build something from the ground up. How tall, how big, just for our listeners to get an idea on the scope of what you have been planning. And we'll talk a little bit about what the pandemic has done to reshape your ideas.
Well, what we proposed, and this is a very interesting thing, but, in RFP, you propose something to win an award, right? So it's more design. You try to make it practical.
Right.
You don't want to present something that's not practical, because then you're stuck with the unpractical idea that nobody can afford and nobody will ever move into, and then just becomes artwork and not a physical asset.
Right. Good looking blight.
Yes. Good looking piece
Really
of paper.
expensive, right? Yeah.
And still just an empty piece of dirt.
But the award is the dirt, right? The award is the rights to build
The
in a certain
exclusive
space.
right,
Right.
for a certain period of time to work with the city. It does not, however, grant me to be able to build anything, which is, it seems from past conversations that I've heard for whatever forum that has been in, that people think just by saying I like something that it can be approved and built. There's a lot of things that have to be done
Right.
in agreement and approval through many different channels to make this type of project work. But what we proposed was, gosh, you're making me date myself, but it was the same exact height as the MSUFCU building. Therefore, we weren't going any higher, but it was to capitalize on the size of the property, which is a little bit smaller. And
Which is what, 6 or 8 stories? 6, 7 stories ish, just to give them a shape.
I believe it was 8 stories.
Okay.
And don't quote me on it.
But you're
Even though
expecting,
you are.
but multi-tenants, right? I mean, so you're talking about having a variety of people
It could
filling
be
this
one,
space, right?
But it was supposed to be mixed use. I mean, we're looking to have different amenities. And remember, this is pre-pandemic.
Right.
And so everything really changed quite substantially from what people want. And the funny thing about that statement is nobody knows what they want, which is the hardest part about filling a building in a place that doesn't really have the industry. And Michigan State, or I shouldn't say Michigan State, but East Lansing is a little bit behind the times, a decade or more comparative to a Madison or a Columbus, and how they're growing. They're really missing a significant piece of industry in their downtown. Everything's on the outskirts, and there's a lot of people, focusing on their own project in their own location and very siloed across the city. So
in order to get something like this really built, you probably were hoping, or maybe even needed, to have at least kind of an anchor tenant or people that were interested in coming on board. Did you have that process kind of dialed out before the pandemic hit as you were going through all of this?
Yeah, in 2019, we, there's hard commitments and soft commitments, and we had relative soft commitments upwards of 180,000 square feet to about 215,000 square feet.
Wow.
And everything, really ranging from a lot of WeWork stuff to technology companies to food hall to insurance, and there was a lot of different folks that this project was culminating into, and that really was about February, and as of March, April-ish, all of that disappeared.
Right.
And not a hard no. It was like, let's just see what the next couple of months are because of COVID and see how long this is.
Right.
And by June, August, it was like, I don't, their comments were, how do you expect me to make any decisions today? And you're like,
sure.
I get it.
Got it. But it's easy when you rattle off those types of tenants that you had in the queue. It sounds like that would be enough to get you started, because success breeds success. If all of those people kind of came through and you built some of that and you ended up with not a handful, but probably a significant amount of still vacancy. But when you start shopping around, hey, come be a part of this where these people are and these people are and these people are, and there's this energy and this food hall and all these kinds of things, come be a part of this growing scene in East Lansing. It's easy to daydream what kind of impact that would have on downtown East Lansing.
Well, East Lansing isn't a build it and see if they come community.
Right.
It's too risky from a development standpoint. So we needed to get some hard commitments, and we get to this point where we were about ready to pull that trigger, and then this pandemic type happens, and it's the project itself, even though we proposed it as certain square footage, certain height, it doesn't have to be that.
Right.
Things evolve over time. Site plans evolve over time. Costs, especially, evolve over time. So it could make it unrealistic. And over that course of time, the people are supposed to evolve the idea, because the people of real estate are the most important thing, because without them, there is no real estate. If we don't have occupants,
right,
we don't have people that can pay rent, that want to be there, that find it as an investment or find it as a place to grow their business, then we'll never succeed and it'll never happen. So it's been a struggle and in this community, because it's not really seen as one that's, industry heavy, tech heavy. Not yet. It has so much potential to be. No question. And the proximity to the campus and all the brain trust that comes out of that, it seems like there'd be a nice, symmetry there. The talent that they produce is some of the top in the nation. And that's, you can't argue with that. It's an amazing place. If you just, step foot on it once, it's like, it's something else. It's an amazing place. So we're recording this in early February of 2022. Where do things stand right now? Is the project on pause? Is it off? Is it barreling forward? What do you foresee the next stretch of time looking like? So, what I would say is that the relationship between developer and city has changed. Originally it was, developers tell us what you can put here and then do it. Kind of I wouldn't say a developer versus, but more closer to that. And I think today we're more of a developer and city, because we're almost acting as a consultant to a certain degree when we say, okay, we're going to work without knowing if this project is viable. Because if you just look at metrics of office in Michigan, United States even, there's only a few places in the United States that are not even back to normal, back to half of what they were. Yep. And so the consultant role, or that advisory role of saying, you have this property, you can put multiple things here. If you want to put student housing here, you could do that. If you want to go for just building a building and increasing a tax base, that's totally their prerogative. But if they want something that's going to help for a more sustainable city, something that they're missing,
Yep.
you can keep putting in student housing, but then after a certain point, then you're going to be left with just that and no more land.
Right. Right.
And it's not going to help any businesses, or not any businesses, all businesses.
Right.
So,
diversification is needed. Otherwise, you're a one-trick pony, right?
Well, how many people outside of students would want to visit?
Right.
If you just had students. Now, there's nothing wrong with students, but that creates an atmosphere.
Right.
And after a certain age, you grow up from that. Right. You want to get away from that.
Right on.
And so, our role with the city is trying to locate nationally new industry that's looking to take advantage of the talent that's produced by our city, and see if we can provide that tenant base, that office tenant base or commercial base that assists in creating something that's new and brings people year round. That daytime activation is really what we're working with the city on, and the city and staff and have just been amazing. They've really been a pleasure to work with.
That's great. Well, John, I mean, it's so tempting and a tease to have this such a vibrant development come into downtown East Lansing. It'd be very different than what we have down there already. So I applaud you. I thank you for all the hours you've put in and wish you all the best moving forward. How can people learn more about River Caddis?
We can go to rivercaddis.com. And through there, we have a lot of different avenues to learn about some of the projects that we've done, or through that, you can reach out to us, and I'd love to talk to you.
Fantastic. John McGraw from the River Caddis, the Director of Development. Thanks for joining us to talk about Citadel.
Thank you, Chris.